Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Downtown Development Authority's Goals and Objectives second part and budget workshop meeting tonight here at the Morton Center. If everybody could stand and say the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Megan, can you do roll call?
Posnansky here. Humphreys.
Yes.
Here we have Brandt.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
Hard to remember everybody's name. John.
Rose.
Full vote that
Parker. Who's in Parker? Meldon.
Here.
And who are we missing? Tar.
Tar.
And that's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think we have anybody here for public forum. Can I get an approval for this part of the agenda tonight?
I'll make an approval or a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
That's John. Thank you. Okay, so
We need an all in favor.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So part of the goals and objectives meeting from last month, we didn't get through all of our line items, and one of them was the village park improvements. I think Christine has some input on that.
Well, I don't have a whole lot, but I don't know if anybody's been over to see the gazebo. You know, it's in a state of disrepair again. Some boards are rotting, some are missing now, paint is flaking. So, you know, I approached Clara, normally they take care of that, and she's certainly willing to, to address that. But I wasn't really sure where things were going to head with the park. I know that Greg threw out, making that a municipal parking lot, or which is going to take some money, if that's something that we want to look at, or revamping the park and making it, a much more usable space. The trees, the grass looks awful. It's pretty much crabgrass or missing. Some of the trees need some work, so it definitely needs some TLC. The brick pavers aren't all that level, so when we do have concerts and gatherings in the park, I think it's difficult for anybody with, accessibility issues to really be able to stand on that uneven surface. So just one of the things that we've been talking about at village council level was, putting some money into it and fixing it up.
Has anybody talked with the Lions Club about because didn't they originally weren't they part of the group that installed it originally?
They own the gazebo, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They're not interested in getting it back.
Oh, okay.
At all.
All right.
Since their major fundraiser has been shot,
What,
the Lions Club major fundraiser.
has been shot?
They didn't have it last year.
Well, they're going to have it this year.
You sure?
I was at the meeting, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Abbreviated.
They're looking at not doing the Monday events, no floral parade. The carnival is available, the beer tent, the music, the craft show, the car show. They're looking at doing the children's parade and the night cruise on Sunday. So it would be an abbreviated.
Okay, I just,
So is that something that we would, do we know like what the maintenance would cost? Do we have an idea of? It's just basically, it would be a subcommittee thing if somebody wanted
Absolutely.
to take it
If
on.
somebody wanted to prioritize that, I met with Clara, she's got a little bit of money in her budget, but Parks and Rec really is focused on the townships and the townships parks. And so the village park really hasn't had any investment in it. I've said for a while, it would be nice to have some sort of small playscape there. I walk by that park all the time. I look out my, window and I see how that park is being utilized all the time. So many people are, grabbing lunch and having picnics in the park, and it's really nice to see that. The thought of losing that as a green gathering space in our village, I think would definitely detract from our community, as well as, the inability to actually have a large enough gathering space to hold a crowd for a Christmas tree or Harvest Days or whatever other event that you would wanna have there.
So we would need to add a line item in the budget, for that, for maintenance and improvement.
Well, I think that you have sort of like a bricks and mortar investment program you have some money that's earmarked. It's just a matter of saying, is this important enough for us to budget to do something this year or not?
I would agree.
I do think it needs updating, but in updating, do we want to change, do we want one of those mini, what are those things called that you play music?
Band shell?
Band shell? Do we want a playscape? What do we want in there? And I think that's probably a subcommittee.
Playscapes are hideously expensive.
And so it would be a band shell.
They really are, Kelly. I know a great deal.
You can play movies in there too.
Playscapes than probably
Mhm.
anybody here.
Well, it's something to explore.
Mhm.
There are grants out there, I do know that, through MEDC in placemaking grants. There's,
MML has a couple of.
mhm. So I think it's a subcommittee opportunity to explore what we could possibly do with the space.
I would think at best at this point, we could just mitigate the, how should I say, the unsafe gazebo and keep
Just
up what we have.
Spruce it up and bring it
Yeah,
up to
and-
code.
Mhm.
Yeah, until
Right.
then, till we have fundraisers or figure out where the jackpot is, I don't know that we can put much there.
Well, I definitely think it's a subcommittee to take a look at what our options are. But, okay, so did you, in speaking to Clara, are they willing to help finance painting that gazebo?
Well, they've always maintained it, up to, standards, and she's acknowledged that it needs some work. So
Mhm.
I think she's just sort of waiting to see what avenue do we wanna go. She's not gonna invest any money only for us to turn around and say, well, if it's not worth rehabbing, let's just tear it down and not have a structure there this year, or, I mean, I don't know. As far as I know, she's just waiting to hear from us on what our next steps would be.
There are a number of small contractors in the area who could take that project on. Roger lives in my building. He's a contractor. He does little jobs like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the discussion needs to be more than just the gazebo, though. If we're gonna
Right.
invest any kind of money over there, just sprucing up with a gazebo and then still having, whether it be brick pavers or trees or bed grass, it's kinda like, we need to look at the whole
what-
picture.
That's what Megan said. We need to spruce the whole thing up.
Mm-hmm. So am I hearing that I would have volunteers for a subcommittee to work on this? Don't all raise your
I don't
hand.
know if it's-
I would-
My thought is really, you need to narrow down your goals and objectives. You need to figure out what your priority lists are and what you want to do or hope to do, and then figure out where your budget fits in that before we start forming subcommittees. So, I think you just gotta rank the projects.
So the project should be on the list, is kind of what you're saying, your suggestion.
That's,
And then if it fits
I think it's kind of important, but
Mhm.
that's for this body to sort of
I think
decide.
it's important, it's very important, the park. You're right, it needs a playscape, a place for kids to do their thing. Should be there.
Right. I reached out to Todd Robinson at your, email, and he's not interested in even sitting down to discuss the Chandler Prospect Street property, the old middle school, until at least the very end of this year, but he said more than likely the end of 2022. They have to complete their project, and then they're taking a little step back and seeing how the rest of the bond issue works before they make any decisions. So the feedback that we got on the survey, which was, to make that our village park, really isn't feasible. It's not even on the horizon at this point.
Right.
You're talking about a piece of property, the conversation is probably worth $800,000 to $1 million.
Right.
I mean, it's-
I
out
mean,
of
it
our
would be great if
budget.
it was a park. I'm all for it being a park, right?
But
Or a dog
it's-
park, or a walking track, whatever. Yeah,
But it's owned by
Somebody else.
the Romeo Community Schools,
Right.
who have taxpayers in Ray, Armada, Bruce, Washington, the Village, Oakland, and Addison Townships. All those people have a
Right.
say in that money.
Right.
So let's move on from that to,
Well, I definitely think the village park is one of our priorities that we'd like to take a look at. The Lafayette Bike Path. Now, I knew that came on board. Is that still with DTE and,
Well, the Lafayette Bike Path came into play when we were looking at the pedestrian crosswalks, because that grant was for pedestrian, walkability and bikeability, which is kind of the hot button issue.
Right.
And when we looked at, bike lanes, there isn't enough width in our roads right now, on the main streets to have it striped for its own dedicated bike lane. But when we were looking at Lafayette Street, which at the end of that by Railroad Street, by the car wash, there's a little dirt path, and a lot of people are using that sort of goat path to access the trail to head south versus having to go down Main Street. I think it's a much safer route for families, especially with, little kids on bikes, to be able to go to that side street. It's a straight shot. And so that's where the Lafayette Street sort of came in, making that possibly one-way and striping it for a bike path, and then,
Is that in our
meeting-
district?
No.
It's not in the DDA district, right?
It would end in the DDA district, but it doesn't, it's outside where it starts.
and wasn't there with DTE a league, because this has been brought up many times. It goes back to when Karen Polka served on my board. She got a grant from Ford to work through this.
Exactly.
But there's something with the DTE legal that was not releasing that.
The problem came into the last year, because you're correct, Karen did it first and had
Mhm.
some money secured from Ford.
Mhm.
And then, Bob Hart and I sort of took up that project with DTE and the DNR. There's some grant monies available. The grant money that's available wanted a long-term lease on any sort of permanent structure. So they were willing to grant an easement to have some sort of trailhead park put there, but not within the length of time that the DNR grant required. And the talk sort of dissipated
Right.
from that point forward. I still think even if we don't put a structure there, that some money in just an asphalt, two
Right.
lane wide, it doesn't have to be the 5 feet or the 6 feet that the Orchard Trail is now, but just, get an access point over there so that it's safe. I think it's a much more natural, straight shot right into town for everybody who wants to come in and, grab a soda or Slurpee, a pizza, whatever, off that trailhead.
Mhm.
So I don't know that it's necessarily a DDA project, but that's where that came from.
Right, right. I just know it's been on the
Talked
list
about.
forever.
Mhm. Yeah, still something that I would love to see happen, but
Why can't we have them come up Dickinson Street? Because the existing trailhead is right halfway between Dickinson and St. Clair. If we put up some signage and sent them up Dickinson to Bailey, they'd be in downtown.
because the thought process was that not necessarily everybody wants to cross 32 Mile Road.
Well, they
So
wouldn't
if you're
have to.
coming from the south, coming north on it, then you gotta cross to get into town. If we had one on both sides of 32 Mile Road, that would just give you the option without having to cross, because it's not that secure right there by the parties.
I always ride the Lafayette one.
Yeah, which is surprisingly uphill,
Mhm.
right?
It is, all the way.
I hope
Yep.
I'm not the only one that ever discovered that.
Okay. So we have DDA events on here, and I wasn't quite sure in the conversation from the last meeting, did we decide to cancel Harvest Day this year?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
We did? Okay.
Yeah, we said we weren't gonna do anything. I mean,
We
yeah,
talked
that would
about
seem to
doing
be the
something more for the
consensus.
whole month, spreading it out.
Mhm.
Right, that's where we talked
It's
about.
about the outdoor
Carl, you weren't
dining.
here, but you had put together that information before with the outdoor dining, and looking into doing something like that, whether it be with the domes that you would see out, the igloos that you saw in some other towns, and Carl had even mentioned doing something more like bringing in different merchants and having the ability to shop in a similar setup where it's, kind of friendly to retail as well as the restaurants, but that would be something we could put money into, and it would be ongoing instead of a one-day event that
Right.
is subject to weather issues, which we've had in the past, and, we don't have to worry about booking vendors and worrying about all that for a one-off event. And I
And
don't
still
see-
doing the kids' movies, or it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be
the
kids.
stuff in the
I
park,
suppose.
with the Halloween movies we did a couple times before, and keep that going, but I think for a one-day event, it just doesn't make sense to keep that going with the way things are, at least right now.
Okay. So in the vein of the domes for these restaurants or retail operations, do we have any idea, cost per one?
I don't yet. They're all over the board.
I know, I was looking
Depending
at,
on what kinds you want to get, how fancy they are.
What's the range?
Well, I mean, you can get a small one for $400-500, like the cheaper version of it. And those glass ones they use downtown are like $10,000.
oh, well, I
Now,
think
does
those are out of our
anybody rent
budget.
That I don't know. We'd have to.
I think you would
Get
get
into it.
buy-in from the restaurants if we were to help share in the costs of some of that, so they're not just stuck. I mean, I know last year, I think, Nikki was saying that she looked into it, but they couldn't even get them at the time.
Yeah.
because they
Right,
were
that's the problem,
unavailable.
right?
Yeah, I wonder,
Even this year, I think, because when I started looking,
Still nothing.
yeah,
But if
I
you-
like the idea.
Yeah, I think, you see, I think ours was one of the few places that you didn't see it, I guess,
Right.
last winter, but I think Brown Iron had
Brown Iron
one.
had a lot.
Mhm.
So I think if we can find a way to incorporate that, the restaurants would get on board, and they don't necessarily all have to be for restaurants. I mean, like Carl said, you have a merchant in one of the igloos, and we could
Or you
even
just
rent
rent-
out space that way, and, then it's, we're not all out on the money, we're kind of partnering and just making it work, and then
Mhm.
people
You
are
rent
paying
out the
to rent
time
it.
slot and they grab the carryout from whichever restaurant they want, so then you don't have to like do each restaurant having a specific section.
But
Yeah.
if each restaurant had it, they would share in the cost, I bet, to have that structure out in the front of their place.
And that's something where, once again, subcommittee sits down with the restaurant owners, and then they have a conversation and they figure out what's feasible and what's not, but we gotta have it somewhere in our budget
Right.
to be able to.
You also get into LCC rules about serving.
Yeah.
And it's got to be a
Well, two of our restaurants have sidewalk patios serving.
The
Yeah,
problem
but
with the
it's
liquor
connected.
license is that it has to be attached, right? They can do outdoor service, but it has to be adjacent to their facility.
Or
Right.
we'd have to
So-
do social district. Can we
You can, but
Still do
then
social
each
district.
restaurant has to have everything labeled, with their name, who's serving what. Yeah, you can do a social drinking district.
Mhm.
A lot of communities do that. But it's by request of the businesses to the municipality to then work out those details.
And we're getting into questions about where in the world would you put it? Adjacent.
At best, they would have to take up parking.
I'm not arguing about that, Megan, I'm just,
Right.
you've got
That-
three
that's all-
restaurants right
That's
now.
all I
that-
got. They would have to go in parking spaces.
Are they not
We have
small
three
enough to go on the
restaurants that do
sidewalk?
Why can't they go on the
outdoor
sidewalk?
seating.
What about the
No.
sidewalk? Why can't they go on the sidewalk?
Put them in the front.
Well, that's what I
they
meant.
do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they?
Well,
Council has
Square
to
footage
approve
wise,
those,
how
I think.
big are they?
An outdoor merchandising of, yeah.
I mean,
On the base, how much room is on the sidewalk?
If
my
it's
impression
permanent,
was
20 feet?
That Yorkoba,
10?
which was the
No,
last
it's
to
more
do
than
it
that. It's-
in the
Yeah,
years,
they're-
And obviously the north
he
end's
was
more
the
than ours,
first to
than
do it.
the
The office was
south
the
end,
first,
but
and
it's
the
got
council approved
15 feet
it.
wide, I
Right.
think.
And essentially,
I
that
don't know for
permanent
sure.
structure
Sounds about right.
is no big deal.
Problem is when you hit the
Serious
benches,
money.
how far
Right.
that
It
is.
has
Just
to have
wiggle
your
around, but there's
liquor
definitely enough room
fenced
for
off.
those to
Correct,
fit.
yep. It has to be
Better
secure,
so,
no
halfway.
access, right.
Because the-
I'm sorry, are
the
we
restaurant
discussing
railings
specifics
are
right now, or?
quite far.
Just a
No,
general
definitely.
idea.
Bullet point ideas. So,
Just
'cause
general
I mean,
idea.
I can sit here with a bunch of specifics, but I don't think we want the
Well,
time right
China,
now.
no, he
So,
had a thing up last year.
again, I guess I would suggest, yes, great idea, we need an event to replace, or, whether Harvest Days or whatever it is, and,
Well, I think
we need the time to discuss, I've got a couple ideas.
Maybe you could do a one-day kid day, so you can have the pony rides
Or a
and
weekend, or every
little
weekend of
things
a
to
month.
do, to
I
like
would
kick it
rather see
off.
the money involved in the month for outdoor dining, like a harvest month, tying it in with Tilson Street and,
the only thing, guys, when we go into
The
the
budget,
budget
yes.
discussion, we have to kind of know the scope of what we're talking about so that we can budget accordingly. So if it's a matter of, is it gonna be, how much do we wanna put into something like that? No different than the village park improvements. We gotta kind
Mhm.
of know the scope of what we're looking at for, when we kind of formulate this.
Last
budget
year,
next.
Macomb County had a grant for those igloos.
Did they?
I don't know if they're gonna do it again this year, but they did last year.
I mean, I'm gonna hope that the time frame we're talking about, something like an igloo is not gonna be necessary. I can see something like a tent to try to help the retail and the restaurants have an area where we can kind of promote outdoor instead of their, indoor. But,
Well, my idea was to have it draw people to town. So
Right.
you'd had, say, 10 of them up and down the street, and you maybe light them, or however you wanna work it. And then maybe in front of my store, one day I have like a game night, so people can sit in there and play games.
right, but an igloo, if it's what I'm thinking, you've got 6 people, you're done. You wanna have like a tent or a sidewalk, cover the whole sidewalk for the whole block. And then in front of your store, you've got an area where you can have your game nights, and the other, the bar can have a
Oh, sort of
outdoor
like
seating, which
Rochester's
some of
Christmas
them already
shop.
do, and, but just, I mean, an igloo, what, are you gonna have 6 people in there for an hour? What good is that gonna do you? I mean, it's
And
gonna
the
be a
60
nice event
Or
for
you
those.
could do like Elmont did for Valentine's Day, and you could focus on Sweetest Day, which is in October. You could have a family dinner game night, right? You get Rustic Bluebird to design a menu, and you get a couple other restaurants to design a menu, and you pair it with, a board game that Carl's submitting, and some coffee or, something else from John, and you put these packages together and help the businesses promote it and sell it. They're making money, they don't have to donate anything. I thought that was great exposure. They did that with the florist, they did that with the jewelry shop, and they did that with, I think Rustic up there for Valentine's Day dinner. It was like $180. You got a jewelry, some roses, and food.
Right.
Talk about easy shopping for a husband, right?
I think that the igloo thing, though, it does, just the visual of it brings people, I think people want to go eat in those now. It turned
It'd be
into one
cool
of
to
those
set
things that
the-
it wasn't even around before, and now all of a sudden people are seeking those things out, or they will be in the winter months, and it allows the restaurants, obviously, we don't know what capacity is gonna be at in October, but it gives them an opportunity to offset that restriction if they are still only at 50% capacity, 75% capacity. It's no different than them having the outdoor dining patio area now. You're just adding to what you can bring in.
If you were utilizing the alleys that you had, say Starkweather, if you wanted to, without even taking up parking, put those bubbles down Starkweather, or put the bubbles, behind Nikki and Glenn on that walkway that we used to be the alleyway that we closed off, or put them, over, I guess the Bailey Street quadrant would be the exception. But you got the other alley that's by your Kobe, right? So you got 3 spots that you could put a couple of bubbles.
Village Park,
I was just gonna say Village Park, yeah.
if you want an
Yeah, and
open
if we
area.
spread them out, they get people walking around town, or, have them different themes around town, so.
But my only concern is that would be great for the people in that bubble. Maybe it's, maybe they
Yeah,
bought
you
something
could
for me and
have,
they're
like,
out there.
fire
How's that
pots.
helping Zach? How's that helping Carl? How's that, it's too limiting.
Well-
That's what my vision is, it's not helping enough of the,
Retail.
of the retail.
Well, if
yeah.
everybody's open at night and people come to go to it, then you can go to your store and get something.
If they open.
Come on in.
That's the thing, you gotta stay open, right?
Yeah.
And that's always been the battle
Mhm.
for the retail downtown.
So,
Do we have any other ideas for
Yeah, I
event?
think these are all great ideas, and I won't be long here, but, when we think of the DDA and what the true mission is of the DDA according to the state of Michigan, these are great things to work on, and I'm just wondering if we should, that MRP used to be merchants, retailers, and professionals, and I know that organization kind of, went by the wayside, because we have the chamber, we have the DDA, we have all these things. But really, our job, I think, is really, sticking on this infrastructure type stuff. And I think if we could push a faction of merchants to come together and say, look, we're here to support you in any way as a DDA. You all should get together and brainstorm and say, how can you drive business to your businesses? I'm personally really interested in making sure the infrastructure, the lights, the street crossings, the park benches, these hardscape things that these DDA dollars that are collected from some of us in this room every, month, from our building and are used for that, So, again, we could do this a long time, and it's interesting and it's great, but really we've got to get the the merchants down there, you know, maybe it's something John puts together, a group of his contemporaries, say, hey, let's talk about how we can drive traffic here for restaurant usages, you know? And then Zach, retailers, you know, and if he wants to bring in some retail ideas with people. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, so I don't wanna get too tangled up in that. There's a lot of, like, the trail thing is a fantastic, that's part of what our mission is doing those hardscape things and dumpster corrals and.
But DDAs also do events.
I understand that, but not according to the MLS code or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
They do
It's a
it, but
combination.
It's not what they're there for.
Actually, since I signed the original document that helped get this thing funded, there was only one project that was on the agenda. It was on an agenda all of the years that I was in the beginning, and that was to get more parking. None of the rest of this.
Promote
We
economic growth.
did manage to
Right there.
acquire one parking lot, and then the village did later on their own, made a decision to buy
Right.
the other parking lot. Since then, we failed miserably in acquiring any parking,
Right.
period.
But through the years, more things have been added to that
I
list.
understand that,
Yeah.
but that, in the concept, and there's still 3 of us left alive, 4 of us, 5 actually, were there at the beginning meetings.
Mhm.
I guess we're all older, but that's neither here nor there.
Doesn't have
We're actually
anything-
still alive,
Mhm.
as is the village president who got this going. The idea was, over time, we could accumulate enough money, and it wouldn't happen in a year, it wouldn't happen in 2 years, but maybe it would happen over a 5 or 10 or a 15-year period. That's what it was all about.
Right, but then a whole lot of other things got in the way.
A lot of other things got in the way, and the money's been spent on a lot of other things.
Yep, mm-hmm,
And instead of having the money to buy property, which was the original goal.
Right.
It's been spent on other things. Period. And Cynthia's still alive. She was a village president then.
Oh, I
Lives in
know.
Rochester.
I know,
You know her,
I know her.
okay? Call her up and ask her.
Well,
So do you have the original list of goals? We went over part 1. Do you have that list with you?
I just have what we discussed from the minutes, which was the flow of communication, website updates, or a new website, new member orientation, coming up with a landlord directory. We talked about the banners. Harvest Day was canceled, and then we had the presentation by Amanda. So that's all we got through.
No, we talked about more projects than that, because,
Yeah, it keeps going after that.
right.
We had that
Food
second
truck.
meeting of trucks.
And
Because then we continued the electric charging station. Light
the
poles
pole
were-
maintenance, parking quadrant review. Talked about doing the parking study because the other one was too old, and waste hauler services. So the parking study would cost money. If we want to get those poles painted, that would be money. I don't think we're doing an electric
would be
vehicles
if we
charging
had a
station,
food
are we?
No.
So that's off the books.
In October.
The light, the
And
lamp.
then they
The
will
lamp
do
pole, they
igloo.
said, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just use your igloo to
The
eat
dumpster
it.
corral's always been an
Right,
ongoing issue,
right.
right?
Yep.
Mhm.
So those are our brick and
Bricks
and
and
mortar
Mhm.
things.
That's what I wondered, if, do we have a list that actually has what, would be bricks and mortar? What's more just general housekeeping, or a new DDA director
Right.
that's developing
Right, right.
lists and contacts and websites and more administrative tasks?
Waste hauler, when you presented that, I forget, is that something that you were looking for DDA monies?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
It cost, I thought it was like an extra $30,000. I'd have to go back and revisit that number when GFL bid our village. Obviously, we don't have any waste hauler services, a single hauler in
Right.
the central business district. And I think that, if we had the right person to make contact and could sell it for either shared dumpster services amongst the businesses, or have them switching over to a wheelie cart because it would be paid for there's a pretty big incentive for a lot of the business owners, building owners, to get rid of some of that blight, which is our dumpster corrals.
Christine, just to answer your question too, as far as like if you go through our, the profit and loss budget versus the actual, when you go down to Romeo Blueprint projects, it kind of gives like a list of things that we had talked about before, which would fall under your quote-unquote brick-and-mortar projects. So that's where we've got some of those big ones like the LED lighting, the pedestrian ways, but all those other ones were things that were discussed in the past, we just never allocated any.
So what's
funds
on
for
there
those
right
in the
now
budget.
is the sign grants, historical preservation. What is the implementation and operation? You had budgeted $35,000 for that. Do we know what that?
What do you?
Where are you?
I'm on
What
the
page?
profit.
No, that's different. That still falls, it's not total brick and mortar though. Brick and mortar.
It's under brick and
ends-
mortar here.
No, it's under the Romeo Blueprint projects. You're looking at,
I think it's on page 3 of that.
Page 4.
of that
Starts on
document.
3,
Page
ends
4.
on 4.
Yeah, it
So-
starts on 3,
Bottom of
ends on.
brick and mortar projects ends at total brick and mortar projects, $127,000.
Right, so the benches are there, right?
Right,
We already
right.
did the benches.
Yeah.
The clock on Main Street, that's there, we already did that,
Right,
right?
right.
The flower pots, well, we already replaced those, right? So then you're down to the lighting, the pedestrian crosswalks, done that. I don't know what the murals on Main Street was, if that had anything to do with the Lafayette mural, but patriotic site, that was our Taylor Park that we were gonna put by the gas station there, that never went
Still an
anywhere.
option.
I have no idea what request for bid packet copy fee is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Right?
But if you go down this whole thing, there's a lot of what we're listing off right here.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like we said before, once the budget's approved within that category, we can move things around within the subcategories, you know, so if you've got 2,000 for, allocated for benches, and you decide, well, okay, we actually need it for, some sort of signage. It's my understanding that we can do that, and it's still falling under that category for the budget as a whole. At
Right.
least that's how we've operated in the past, so.
And just move it around, even from different categories.
Sure.
It's the time to do it is now.
We've always just identified where we're gonna get the money from a project that's come up.
Right.
That's what we've always just identified where the money has come from, or where are we taking it out of when something has come up. If the.
Well, it comes out of the TIF,
Right,
whatever you want to call it, income, and that is like put into a general fund. There's no distinction unless we've committed ourselves. Now, we committed ourselves to 45,000 for LED project. We committed ourselves to 80,000 for the walkway project.
Right.
So anything above and beyond that is our choice.
Carol, that's what I was saying, but when
and we've
something's
got
come up, and we're gonna
Christmas
spend some money
and
doing
flowers.
this, it's always been where are we gonna get it, and we've agreed, okay, we'll take it
Well,
out of
luckily,
that.
right now, home values are up in the Romeo area because they're a wanted commodity. Now, we don't know a year from now if the home values will deteriorate for economic conditions. So, you know, it's a guess. The Bruce Township and Washington Township said that it'll at least stay the same, if not go up 5%.
You're talking about the property values in the.
The property
commercial
values, the
business.
taxable values.
Right, the commercial business property values have not gone
So,
up.
I mean, we can expect to get at least 185 or 192. We'll probably get close to 200,000
I agree,
for this next budget coming up.
right.
So we have to look at that and see how we want to allocate it.
2 properties, 3 properties, 4 properties have been sold 5 properties have been sold in the last year.
So that
6,
makes them
7,
even
8.
more taxable.
There's actually been 8 that have been sold that will be uncapped, and at significant increases in,
The capture, right.
income. You can.
Talk louder, can't hear you, Bill.
There've been 8 properties that I can identify off the top of my head that have been sold in the last year, and.
That makes their
what
taxable
means they will
value
be
go up.
Right,
uncapped, and which means that there will be a significant increase in the taxable value and resultant there in taxes. I would
Correct.
agree with you explicitly, you're probably talking 200 to 210,000, because all of these properties were sold at significantly higher multiples than twice their assessed value.
Well, I operate on conservatism, so that's why I would only put 200 in there.
Carol, let me ask, the DDA has how many bank accounts?
3.
3.
We have one for payroll, one that pays interest, our investment
Right.
account, and then we have
But
our
do we have
general checking.
an accumulated sum of what we have on hand right now?
Pardon me?
Do we have a sum of what we have amongst
Sure,
those bank
it's,
accounts?
right in your report,
Do we need to open the budget portion?
wherever that one too. Oh, here it is. Okay, we have bad printing. 42,000 in the general account, 173,000 in the investment account, and it looks like almost 4,000 in the payroll account. We got a total of 260,000 cash right now.
200 how much?
260,000. So
You said
that,
4,200
Plus the
and-
village has some money for us.
okay.
We have an account with them, and I haven't heard what it is lately.
You said 4,273 and 4,000, or was that 40,000?
4.
For
That
payroll's only 4.
That's only like 217,000. 209,
I
No.
can't hear him.
11,
Oh.
1.
Well, the total is the last line,
221,000. There's
260.
another $39,000 someplace.
So we have, you're saying in the banks we have 260,000.
Pardon me?
You're saying we have 260,000 on hand, minus what we've already committed to the village?
Well, yeah, we have to take that out,
Okay,
because I just got paid from
45 in.
Washington, 41,000.
right, I brought the check over. So
And
it's
another
80,000
10,000
for
for
the
Bruce.
crosswalk. And then, are the lights 22.5 or are
But
they
I-
45?
I thought the total project for the lights was only 45, wasn't it? To
Right, but it's,
retrofit everything?
but it's come back down because he misunderstood,
Originally, it was 80.
right?
Now, to just replace the lamp posts, it's 44 or 46. So half, if we were still splitting in half these, it would be
Right.
20-something.
Right.
Instead of 40-something.
But that's
Oh,
just the
that's
light
good.
bulbs.
That's just the bulbs. That's just the bulbs.
So that 45,000 is only.
Now 20.
22.5.
22.5, but that 80 is not gonna be due in this budget year, right? In this
Well, we
upcoming
talked
budget
about that, depends on, or the 80 for the pedestrian crosswalks.
year. Right.
Right? More than likely not, because the engineering will be the first chunk. And I don't know how, Roe will invoice that out. The actual work, you know, we hope to get the engineering done and the bid process out by the end of the year, and then the install to happen next spring.
But we still want to put the money aside so we don't get short.
But we, if we're not spending it in this fiscal year, we will be collecting on the next go-around,
Because
right?
that's what we keep doing. We continue to not spend a lot of this money.
No,
And it just
I
sits
mean,
there.
there's a lot there to
Zach, that was my
spend.
whole comment about where the idea of the parking, we would gather the money
Right,
together,
which is-
and so we could afford to buy something and turn it into parking.
I'm
Not
not saying
having
it's a
done
bad
that
thing
in
that
a
we get the money.
dedicated sinking fund, we don't have any money for parking.
But we don't want to spend all our money, right?
Wouldn't think so.
So we're into the budget portion of this, and we're working our way through it?
We haven't gone line by line. I was just trying to get
Okay.
an idea of where we sat with money. And I don't know how you guys do your, but Carol, do you lead the budget workshop?
Well, we just go line by line and discuss if there's anything that is going to be done in that particular area. And do we have revenue sharing this year?
We don't have a contractual amount, if that's what you're asking me, right? So we would, of course.
Because it's up to the village to decide if we do or not, right?
Well, I think it's a mutual agreement between,
Okay.
what do you guys want to do? And what does the village want to do? And hopefully there's a joint project in there and we can say, hey, we think this is important enough and we're going to put some money behind it. If not, then you present the budget to village council and we vote on it yes or no and say, nope, there's more costs associated with the central business district and we're outlaying this much capital and so we think we need this much money to make our budget balance.
So just so I'm clear on this, that we have issued the check for the 22.5 so that it falls, because that was the
No.
revenue share, so we didn't do any revenue sharing projects for this past year.
No.
Correct.
Okay,
They
so
issued
that-
it and gave us back the check.
Okay, so now technically, the LED thing is our project for this upcoming year, right?
Which we can still absolutely do by,
But we
the
do
end
other
of June.
things.
I know yeah, so, but we know we've got that 22.5, because the other one that we kind of worked into was the crosswalks, which
Well, we
know
also budgeted 45,000 for the lights.
Right, exactly, but is that just, is that the village's money anyway, and that's just because it's not money we had, is it?
Yeah,
Okay, we did have it.
We do have it.
we have it. They gave it back.
Because if we want to do a big project, maybe we want to say, we'll go in with Parks and Recs and we'll renovate the village park with them and see what it costs to fix the gazebo, repaint it, do some landscaping around there, pay for True Green to come in and do whatever they do to grass to make it pretty. Find out those costs and see if Parks and Recs, because they use that gazebo area a lot. Plus the village, I mean, we go in with the village too, because it's a plus for the village. Like you mentioned, people picnic there at lunchtime and eat, and we could encourage that more. We use it for Kids Day. I know that Beach Fest uses it for Kids Day. We could have a Kids Day in October one day, but keep it to a small scale, just one weekend. Or we do the movies there.
All right, well, why don't we start with our income and start going through this budget so we can see
It's
what we're
fine.
gonna project for, next year.
I'm sorry, can I just ask one more question? I'm still a little confused by this. So the 45,000 that we got as part of our budget last year was.
We didn't get it. You had budgeted, they had cut the check, we gave them back, they gave back.
Well, I know, but that was the village didn't give us any money as part of that.
No.
The idea that we were going to do the revenue sharing
No.
project?
The village turned over 100% of your TIFA tax funds, and in turn, you did not cut a check back to the village, which was what you had done typically, right?
Right.
Sherry would get a check, or the treasurer would get a check and say, well, we collected X amount of dollars. Carol, here's yours, now give me one back.
They would
Right.
stand there and hand each other
We didn't
a
give
check.
one back. The village gave 100% of your TIF capture to the DDA. So we
Correct.
don't have any of your money,
Right.
aside from a small little account that, that gets delinquent tax contributed to as it comes in. It's a small amount.
But that was with the understanding that we were going to do the
A
shared
joint project,
Right.
yes.
Which we did not do.
Correct.
Okay. That's, okay.
So that money is rolling over again,
It's in your coffers.
right? Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yep.
Okay. So Carol, do you
Okay, so we want to
anticipate-
skip the income sharing section and then go down the sheet and see,
Okay.
go redo that later.
Yep.
So then we go into downtown decorations.
Can I ask a question before?
Sure.
It looks like at one point we helped with the street signs and striping and senior ambassador. When did that stop? When did we stop helping with those things for downtown?
What was that on?
It's under the CBD revenue sharing with the street signs and striping, the maintenance, senior ambassador.
We reimbursed for senior ambassadors for a couple years, but then the village said, no, we'll pay for it because
It all sort of
It's
came
in our
under
budget.
the consent judgment
Okay.
agreement. and
Okay.
The money that was being captured.
Right, okay. Thank you.
So, right now, all of that cost is borne on the village.
And then I think it was, maybe 5, 6 years ago, we did striping on Rowell's for parking. And that's the only time we used streets.
Okay, we didn't pay it because of the consent thing. Now that the consent judgment
I
has
don't know that
been.
that was the reason, but that's pretty much when it fell off, because you guys didn't have any money.
Right?
Right, exactly. And
Okay.
it still needed to be done, so it just came out of our general fund.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Carol, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Banner
Is
installing.
the downtown area in need of striping again?
It gets restriped every fall, right around Peach Fest. If anybody noticed, I'm having the curb repainted in the northwest
Yeah, that's pretty
quadrant.
sad, the curbs.
Yep, so that's being done. Our DPW is doing that. So
And what do you estimate the cost was for,
it's usually about $6,000 to restripe all of the municipal lots. The county actually does St. Clair and Van Dyke. That's not ours to restripe, as far as the the crosswalks. But the municipal lots, I believe it was around $700. I'd have to go back and look at that.
so that's one thing we could share with you.
But couldn't that come out of the parking space fee structure whole idea?
Do what on?
with the
If
village?
we had a payment in lieu of, right. yeah,
Right,
if
but we don't
If we
have-
had a fund that was captured
We don't
for
have that, right?
parking, that's what, that part of that maintenance would be included in that, but we don't have a fund, so therefore we don't capture that.
And the senior ambassador's still out there, right?
Yep, and Mr. Hop, honestly, he deserves a raise, right? He hasn't had a pay raise, I think he's still making $10 or $11 an hour for all the work that he does, so, yeah.
Well, my big question to the board is, do you think it's important to have signage? I mean, a visible street sign where you can see it's Lafayette, maybe even put signs for the companies that are down the street so that when people are driving down Main Street, they'll see, oh, down this street is the Rawls Dental, Hans Bank,
Romeo.
Coney
Accountants.
Island, you know, all the different stuff that's down the street.
I think you have to keep a clear sight line,
Right.
right? And I think that the more you have there, the more it detracts from everything else that's already there. And I think the onus is on the businesses to
Just
put
make,
whatever
just make a
signage.
bigger street
you know.
sign so you can see it.
Right.
Yeah, I think, signage wise, unless we're talking like 1 or 2 wayfinding signs that are in two of the parking lots or something, I don't think.
Sort of like a kiosk.
Exactly. something
Which
that-
wouldn't be for drive-bys, that's
Right.
for walk-up, people
Walker,
going, well, where's,
pedestrians.
They park their car, they get out, and they want to see where everything is.
Well, that would be, we have, what, 2 municipal lots? 3?
Mhm.
3, actually.
3, yep.
I mean, it'd be 3 of those things run like $1,000. We could budget for that and check that out. I
Well,
mean,
let's-
that would be a substantial, we've been talking about that I've been on the board almost 8, 9 years. And when I started, they were talking about it.
I think
So-
it's down in one of our brick and mortars wayfinding.
I mean, we could
It
put a
is.
budget in there and then decide what to do.
Okay, well, let's go down our list here. That's under brick and mortar.
Okay.
It's kiosks or wayfinding signs.
Do we need to worry about any banner installation this year? We haven't put our banners up in 2 years.
Wickham doesn't do it anymore.
The DPW does, and the village pays that, correct?
Yep. Not if the DDA is gonna be in control of the banners. So,
So how much does that cost?
you got 2 guys for 2 days at $27 an hour.
So the banners that are going up are Amy's right now for the seniors. We didn't have anything to do with that, other than saying, yes, you can put them up.
Right, you
Well,
saw that I
we did that.
CC'd her on, yeah.
She wrote to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because I said, did you get authority from the village, from the DDA?
I answered that on
To-
the very first email.
To put the banners up, right?
$1,600 a shot, how many times are we swapping them out? And are we paying it if St. Baldrick's wants it? I assume it's their responsibility.
But I don't think that's necessarily a decision that's up to one person. That's a board decision that has to
I
come
agree
to-
totally. The question is for the budget. If we're paying to do this, then, and we're gonna swap them out 5 times, that's $8,000.
But does that even mean we have to use the
You
DPW?
need to put it in there as a banner, whatever, install and maintenance, you need an $8,000 tab.
Has the
period.
foundation paid for the install on these?
No.
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 But Megan, to your point, that's the same kind of conversation we had about the snow removal. We couldn't do snow removal because of the union, we weren't allowed to subcontract that kind of work out. It had to go
Right.
to DPW first, so we couldn't bid out snow removal. So I would imagine it's the same thing. We can't have somebody else do it. Now, I remember, I think 1 or 2 years, Amy was out there installing them herself.
We
right?
can't, we can't do it, so we're gonna have to put a number in there if we're gonna pay for it. So.
Well, they can do it, it's just a choice, right? You gotta make sure that they're covered under your liability, you know, who's ultimately responsible for that? What happens if the poles are damaged, right? What happens
Well, how
if-
come the
if they get
conversation
hurt?
came
Right.
up with the union problem then with the DPW?
It's a different issue, and it doesn't really apply to this case. There are some statutory duties that the DPW and the union employees get first dibs on, right? Installing banners isn't one of them.
So we need to put like $8,000 in that slot,
Right.
if we're gonna do it at 5 times 16, that's 8,000. You need to put it in there.
Unless we start if we're in charge of it and we're the ones putting it up, then we can charge them for the maintenance of putting their banners up.
Right, if St. Baldrick's wants us to put up
Yeah,
their banners.
then they can pay for it.
Then, by God, they're gonna have to pay us to do it. End of discussion, let's move on.
So what are we putting in there?
I said 8,000, that's 5 times
Probably
16.
cover it then.
Pardon?
That would probably cover up
Yeah.
and down.
That's what,
All right,
okay,
All right, so if we're playing Bill's rules, Bill, where are we finding that 8,000?
it'll come out of there eventually, when we get to the bottom.
yeah, you
Okay.
gotta go through all this first.
Fall harvest decorations,
That was Sean putting up the corn stalks and the flowers and
Yeah,
stuff.
pumpkins and all that kind of stuff.
I think
I think that's
500
more.
is well spent.
I don't know if we can do it for 500. Lisa?
I don't know if he will or not. He did it last time. He did it last for all for 500. I mean, if you give in on out, he'll work with what you give him.
Didn't we put up the purple lights, purple and orange
Yes.
lights on the lamp post too?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
That's
different.
That's cool, Fran.
That's
Okay.
different, yep.
It's under holiday lighting.
So keep it at 500?
Yeah,
All right. Flower and
I'd
plant
like to
maintenance.
add some cleanup to that though, because I don't know how many rotten pumpkins I had to carry off the sidewalk to find a place to dispose of them. It was kind of gross. I'm
Yeah, did
just
we not-
saying.
was there no removal?
If you're gonna put it out, right, somebody
Did he-
needs to take it down.
He didn't take it down?
No, I mean, I did mine. I did
Somebody
mine.
came along and did mine.
we do ours.
Yeah.
If they're on our property,
Yeah.
then we take care of it,
So-
remove them.
I think it was Tom that did mine.
Right,
We do
I
have to
think
start
most,
the regular
yeah.
meeting.
I know,
Do we have a contract for flower and plant maintenance?
for one more year.
and that's basically your watering and your fertilizer. This year, it's running us 20,500.
So my suggestion is if you're gonna do fall harvest decorations, you bump it up to $750 and you tell them that they've gotta put it in and take it down.
All right,
Okay.
we knew we were gonna run up against the time frame for the regular meeting to start. Once we go through our packet of the
I
regular,
think we have a contract still,
this is the
one
last,
more year,
last
so it's
year.
gonna be 21,000 again.
It's probably gonna go up
That's a
after that.
combination of the flowers or flower and plant maintenance. You've got,
No, that's just maintenance. Flowers is the next one down.
so maintenance
No,
is the
we-
watering?
Yeah,
Okay.
watering and fertilizing,
so you're saying that's 21,000.
21,000.
We've got 13,648 right now.
Well, we
What's it,
actually spent
17,500?
$20,473.
But you got 2 more payments that are gonna
Right.
start May and June.
Well, that's what's in your
So that's why that
transaction.
6,000's over there.
All right,
And then, flowers, he's actually less than we anticipated. They're 8,300, and we put 18,500 in there, and we didn't need that much. The reason we paid extra 10 grand was we were gonna buy some more flower pots, and we never did that last year. So I don't know if we wanna get replacement flower pots, just in case, or what we wanna do.
Well, don't we have a broken one, and don't we need one for Ted's tree?
Yeah, we've got broken ones over by,
Somebody's gotta buy something.
the Office Pub.
so
Megan, do you have a volunteer by
I just need to know what size.
how much are they? Do we know?
Well, right now, Toits is looking into what they could find from their suppliers, just to give me a price, but I have not heard back yet.
Okay, so should we bump up that to,
I have somebody donating the pot for Ted.
okay,
Oh,
So we leave it at.
Should we leave it at
18,500.
18.5 then?
wow, are we gonna spend that much more in pots?
I say, I mean, we were under 10,000 and that,
I say 15.
well, I was,
15?
we gotta come up with 8, so I mean, that's pretty, and we talked about scaling back the pots that are hanging on the lamp post, right? Because of the damage that it does to that was part of the issue, you know, having the brackets where we've got 2 banners on each side, the wind hits it, we talked about those, plant holders that are wrapped around and how they damage the, light poles, and if we're going to pay money to fix some of that, I don't know if we should necessarily continue that trend, right? So that might save on.
So we're gonna leave this at 15,000?
Yeah, I say go for 15.
Did you say 15 or 16?
15.
15.
15. 15. And I think we have to stop right here, right now, so that we can go into our regular
Well, the
meeting.
holiday lighting, will that still be the same?
Probably
Because
not.
we went
And one
overboard
meeting and
last
start the
year.
other?
I don't think we do. I don't know of any rule that requires us to.
Because we
gotta-
bought
just so that
lights.
it's clear for John, so that he can know when to cut and what to post
Yeah, I think,
for both meetings, so
let's,
And then reconvene.
somebody adjourn this one right now.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the goals and
I'll second.
objectives.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay,
Like the restaurants will give gifts.
are we ready to reopen the budget meeting, workshop meeting for, this evening for the budget for 2021 through 2022, continuing on the discussion for our annual budget?
Line by line like we were doing?
Yep. So Carol, we were down on
We were down to holiday
lighting.
lighting,
Yep, mm-hmm.
and we still need to keep a reserve for replacing light bulbs. I assume we're gonna keep the same theme as we did last year, putting up just the lamppost lights and then the Christmas trees, everybody
They had
loved
the
them.
snowflakes on
They
some
had
of those.
snowflakes in the,
I thought some of the snowflakes need to be replaced.
They say that, but they
Lisa?
seemed to get them all up last
Aren't-
year.
Aren't there a good number of those in deplorable condition?
There's a few of them that do need to be replaced, Jess.
Do we have any idea what they cost?
Not right off the top of my head, no.
Do you have a number we should put in there for the replacing?
Well, and that's where we were going in the direction of the wreaths.
Right.
Remember the whole,
Mhm.
purchasing the wreaths, the bows?
Well, we started with the bows.
Yeah, we only purchased bows.
Right, I
But that
know.
was the whole idea, is we weren't going to continue with the snowflakes, and then we were gonna move into the wreaths.
And we ran into a terrible shortage, because there's just a terrible shortage, as it is, there's a terrible shortage on lumber, so that there's no particular reason to think there's not gonna be a terrible shortage on wreaths again this year.
Well, and I'll just let you know, I do know that, the lighting companies, I mean, they had a huge run on lights last year, and I know that, earlier than the year, they offered you could pre-purchase them, but they did not have them in stock. So like, for instance, Ray Township bought lights for there and had to pre-order them, and then they'll get them whenever the company gets them, is what they'll
Christmas
do.
Eve.
Well, the stuff is coming from China. I mean, that's just a statement of fact. There's a massive shortage of container stuff around the world. There's no particular guarantee that the stuff is gonna get here.
Well, Lisa, I could swear they had snowflakes on all the lamp posts last year.
Well, I believe there was,
Yeah.
all of those were up, but I mean, they're at a point where they need to be replaced. I mean, they're not in great shape at all.
Okay.
They're, you know,
Well, if we can't get wreaths,
Do you think it would be better to
Well, we didn't buy the
not put
wreaths
the
'cause we didn't-
snowflakes on this year and maybe just do more Christmas trees?
I pay for my
mean,
trees, and if
that's
anyone else
your
wants
call,
them, they can
because-
do them.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not horribly expensive.
right,
How many more can you put in there?
Well, I mean,
The
I can
lights?
decorate
Yeah,
more buildings,
I
that's
pay
not a
for all
problem.
mine.
We do just, the lights from this past year are still fine.
Right.
We would just add to that collection.
How
And we
much is
only
that?
purchased half the bows. The idea was we would do things in steps.
Yeah,
You know,
wasn't it Creative Displays you got the lights from?
how.
Yeah, we only spent $1,600 in lights,
probably, I don't know, 12, 15 years, is it?
and
So
then
maybe we should put an
$2,000
extra
in the
$1,000
bows.
in there annually to, like we do so many other things, because they should be replaced.
Do
But
like
as
a
Megan is
meeting
saying-
about that, So we can figure out what the wreaths are gonna cost, if we can still get them, and then just come back and say this is
This
how much we need.
board had decided to change the streetscape of the Christmas decorations and not do the snowflakes at all. You were looking at
We were gonna
wreaths.
switch over to the wreaths, yeah.
Yeah, but the
Wreaths and bows.
wreaths are an annual expense, and the snowflakes are a
Well,
advertised 10-year expense.
You're not talking real
They're not
wreaths,
real
you're
wreaths.
talking
No.
fake
Not
ones.
artificial.
No, they're
ones.
artificial. Yeah.
And-
The real stuff was along the businesses.
Right.
Yeah, that was the,
For
So
the
how much
roping.
would, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry to say,
The
for the
light
roping.
posts were
that's what-
artificial.
How much were the wreaths gonna
we didn't buy
cost?
any yet. That cool thing.
I'd
was
have to go back and
Were they
look.
about $400 a piece?
We're
They
talking
were-
about putting
yeah, they weren't
different types
cheap.
of
They were about
wreaths.
$400 a piece,
Oh,
And they were artificial, but
give or take.
the nice looking.
And that's
those
where we were
tiny.
deciding, did we want to do over the globe
on the
wreaths?
light pole
Or do
or on the
two,
buildings?
or one on the front, and
Get
that sort of
it.
thing.
Talking
The
light
reality
posts.
is, we need to spend on a sinking fund basis X number of dollars every year in order to plan to replace the stuff as it dies. The fact that the boards haven't done that probably isn't material, but it's where we're at tonight. So we need to add some money there, even if we don't spend it, so that we've got
Well,
it.
that's what the $2,500 was for.
Right, so we didn't spend that
If-
2,500.
Well, you spent more
No,
than
we
that.
spent 3,600.
We spent 3,600.
But that included the ribbons,
The bows, right.
because the lights were only 1,600.
I think those made a huge impact.
Huge impact. If we bought the
So,
same
to
amount
the-
again, it would look even more fantastic.
3,600?
yeah, I'd like to go in at least the same amount, so we could get to our full amount of bows and see what kind of wreaths we could buy, then maybe we're half wreaths.
Yes.
Wherever, and then we're building each year till, maybe in a year or two, we have
So do you
everything we
want to kick
need.
it up to 5,000?
I'll take, buy
See if
whatever
it
you
works.
give me money
You're the
for.
expert on
Tight.
it, Megan.
Well,
Let's write
by
it
the
in
time
and
you
see if
get
it
down
works.
to the bottom, you'll know if that'll work or not.
Yeah.
You want
Right.
to put 5,000 in there?
Yep.
What the heck?
We're not buying banners, are we?
No.
Actually, we don't know that yet.
So my
Let's leave it
question
there.
about Christmas lights.
Banners?
If the kids, if they're back in school and they have their art classes,
Then the kids would be doing them, yeah.
and we had funded it before, which is the reason we had the 5,000 there, was because Amy came here and asked for money, and we voted to do that. So we put the money there. It so happened that there was this thing called COVID, and they didn't have the schools, and therefore there were
You gave her
banners.
$5,000 for banners?
Yeah, we did.
But our
Did you?
purchase of going in with the banners could be paying the install.
Well, I was gonna say, we budgeted 8,000 for the install, so
Oh.
we could just relieve them of that burden of the install cost instead of paying.
That was never on their budget. They
Well, I know,
didn't-
but it would be
But it
now.
would be now.
I understand that.
So we would still be, that could be our contribution. Otherwise, we would essentially be covering. new
No,
banners.
it would cost more than that. Even with the donations, and Nikki gave, like, I think 2,500, or the office did. I gave some money, other people gave money. And they still,
Well,
To,
now it's just been.
I know we put the 5,000 in there because we had given that the prior year.
Was it 5 or was it 2,500 and we just did it a couple times?
That's 5,000.
Well, I know total, but I'm saying like but now they funded it on their own.
But I also know
with
we put this price here because we
donations.
were talking about new Harvest Day banners, in which are not going to be happening. So I know
Right.
that price was part of that too.
So you just want to eliminate the 5,000?
I wouldn't eliminate, maybe reduce.
Pardon?
Reduce?
To 2,500?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we gotta keep, the greens at the
How much?
16.5.
2,500.
I don't think it's
That's
going
what
to
it was before.
What, you think it's gonna be more expensive this year?
Yep.
Why?
Let's try this again.
Oh, it was
2x4s
5,000
are
before,
8
okay.
something a piece right now.
We're talking Christmas greens.
I know
Not
that.
2x4s.
I was just
There
looking
was a
back in the
shortage
notes
last
here,
year.
and we might need to revisit the flowers. We actually did pay him 2 checks of $83.90 for the flowers. So the flowers were actually 19,000.
Why does it have?
So,
You're back up to the flower
Did we decide
basket
that-
in
did we
pots?
decide that
Yeah,
we're
'cause we had-
We
doing
spent
less
19?
pots
we did
because of the
15 as
That
a,
would work.
I forgot to put that down there.
Well, if that's the case, that's not what we're contracted for, though.
Budgeted 15,000 for the pot, so less than what we budgeted.
18.5, and they
So,
came in
Carol,
at
wait a minute.
19.
was there a contract for this? A specific
Yes.
amount of money? Why did we pay them more?
16,780, we had a contract, we accepted. The flowers were 16,780, and the watering was 20,473.
I know we do antifungal spray, but that's a
And that's
skosh
for this
amount
year and
if we
next year.
use it.
So those were the contracted prices that we agreed to with him?
So we adjust the 15,000 to make it
Tonight.
17,000.
So when this needs to
Well,
be
she said we spent
17, not
19.
15.
We spent 19, she said.
19.
She said 80,
Carol, did you say we spent 19,000?
20,000 on watering maintenance, and 16,780 on flowers themselves.
17,000.
17,000.
Because we had
okay.
more
So we have to
pots
change that to
last year
17,000.
Yep,
that we added.
We're going to leave the winter greens at 16.5 and then reduce as
Make
necessary.
that one 17.5.
the winter greens?
No, we're leaving it at 16.5.
16.5, Carol,
16.5.
yes. Advertising and promotions. Do you want to leave that in
Well,
there?
So we're done with downtown decorations, right?
Mhm.
At the moment? Okay.
Mhm.
Do we wanna,
Oh,
give a total so we know
Yeah.
where we're at
I'll-
before
Did
we?
you
total it
total
up.
it up?
That's why I was asking if we were.
Well, we
done.
haven't done lighting yet.
We haven't done
I mean,
yet?
the Christmas, we haven't done the holiday greens and install.
Yeah, we did.
16.
16.5.
15.5.
16.5.
What about the flowers for flowers?
We did 1,700.
1,700. 17,000, you mean?
17,000, yes.
Yes.
Okay, that one's 17,000. This one's 16,500. Not enough. Yeah, that should be. Okay. Sorry.
John's adding it up here. Hold on a minute.
Eight, 750 plus 20,005 plus 17,500.
Two different numbers.
Guess I'll turn my phone on.
You can continue.
Yeah,
We're gonna need
okay.
all of this.
Right. Okay. While he adds that up, let's go down the
It's
list.
65,750.
65, 750. So we are up by,
That sound means we're over budget.
yeah, there you go. We're up by 10 grand.
And that's the bulk of mostly what we do, aside from, helping sponsor some events or,
So we're down to the Harvest Day.
you know,
What's the next
our,
expense?
Well,
our-
wait
our
a minute,
girl
this
and our other
advertising and
projects.
promotions, you had 700 budgeted there. What is that?
Can be a variety of things.
Do you want to keep it?
Well, under advertising, we didn't
It could be
spend
like
anything.
The flyers we just printed out could have came out of there if we were gonna actually do, if we're talking about more stuff in the fall and changing it around to that month, we might keep that there to do some
Yeah.
kind of cards and flyers.
So keep the 700.
So keep it at 7.
CBD events, 2,100.
Well, we just okayed 5.
Okay,
And when was their event going to start?
May,
May.
May.
now, next week.
Okay, so, and it continues till October.
Correct.
Then you've also got your art
And wine walk?
and wine walk that we normally give money to.
And we just spent $800 on chalk.
Oh, yeah. So 2,100 is good?
I would leave it like that,
Yep.
just to
All right.
have a bumper there.
All right.
I know, and we haven't even done anything for the fall that we were talking about.
But would that technically fall on last year's budget? It's not gonna be the
It'll be
subcommittee,
next year's budget.
True, the $800.
the $800, yeah,
But if we're going forward,
right.
yeah.
I think we're okay with the 2,100.
Well, we ended up having to spend a little bit more on chalk because we didn't realize there was a run on chalk.
It's a run on
So
everything.
if we plan it
Are
accordingly.
you kidding me?
No,
insane.
if we plan it accordingly, we could buy chalk in the middle of the winter way cheaper and just store it.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, dues and subscriptions, what are we paying, what is that?
That's the chamber dues,
Oh. Well, that's $90, I know.
yeah. And then to be a member of the
Michigan.
Michigan Downtown
Okay.
Association.
So should we bump that up to,
If we want to join anything else,
I don't know,
Well, we should leave it at the 215 that we actually spent.
right?
Yeah.
Let's leave it at the 215.
And then we can take off that Harvest Day event.
right, I've got
5,000.
that crossed out.
For this year, right? Yep.
But it's actually going to be replaced with
Something, we
your
don't know
month
yet.
of October, so
Yeah, we'll have to
you
decide.
don't want to cross it off completely. It's going to be an October event.
Well-
How much is the budget for that event? Because you got 4 weekends,
She said 65, so.
or is it 5 weekends?
70,750, I'll do it again.
Where's the calendar?
All right.
Why don't you just put 5,000 in the central business district events and call
It'll
it
be
good?
$1,000 a week if it's that.
Why don't we add?
You've got
what
2,100.
she just said, add the 5,000 to the central
Right.
business thing.
I agree.
And then you have $7,100.
No, I mean just 5 total.
Oh, Okay.
If you're not doing harvest days, you don't
Right.
need $5,000, but you could probably pad the CDD by 2,500 and just have 5,000 there.
Okay.
But if we're
Gotcha.
doing
Whatever.
something like Carl was talking about, wouldn't we still need
We need
to?
infrastructure, so if, say those things are all, let's just say they're $500 a piece, that gets us 10.
Well, we have to continue through this and see
Okay.
where to put it.
Okay.
Meeting conference costs. You gonna leave that at 100?
If we're gonna have a new employee, we probably should leave it.
Mm-hmm. Newsletter. Why would a newsletter cost you guys $500?
Postage, printing.
Well, you could send it out via Constant Contact. They could sign up on the website.
Well, we didn't spend any of it, so we didn't do
Right.
it either.
I don't know, do you wanna
Also, right,
leave
the
that?
surveys, I mean, we talked about doing surveys, do you do
But if that's
Survey
something
Monkey,
that
do you
you're
mail them?
going to be
Right.
paying someone to do, then that needs to be there to do.
Right, they have to have something like that to,
So do you wanna leave the
October
500?
has 5 Saturdays this year.
We didn't do a farmer's market.
I think we
Okay,
can leave it
then
at
we're not going to, so take it out.
Take it out, yeah.
Yeah, I talked to, I'm blanking on her name, Lauren. She's, was interested, but then started one up in Cairo, and, said maybe in a year or two, get in contact her again next year, but did say she wasn't doing it for free. She was looking for an hourly wage to do it, so.
So for this year, I think we can take that out of there.
Yeah, for sure.
How about,
Newsletter takeout?
no,
No,
the
farmers
farmer's
market.
market. Website development and hosting, do you wanna put some money in there?
what do we pay for hosting right now?
Says nothing.
I know,
Big
but
zip.
that can't be right.
Well, he hasn't
Have you
given
looked at
us a
what you
bill.
have?
I mean,
Is it in the
when
newsletter?
when the
And I said, have
website
you
went
looked at what you
down-
have, right?
It's nothing.
Well, it's still, it exists.
Right, you get what you
so
pay
somebody-
for.
So somebody has to host it, that doesn't change. It's still gonna cost.
Well,
money to
Lisa's got
host.
something to say.
I mean, when the website went down, I mean, I contacted him, it did take a couple days to get back to us, but, and I told him, you know, if you wanna bill us for this, please send it,
Yeah, but
you
you
know, and we'll
did.
get it paid, and that's it. But,
Well, I think we should put some money in there to. just
I think
figure
we
it out.
should put some money in here.
Are we doing it for the hosting or the actual website development? Because I would think if we're gonna hire an employee, they could put together a simple Squarespace site or something like that that they could build on their own. It's pretty much drag and drop these days.
That was one of the points that was
Right,
discussed
we
in
would
our
save on.
committee, where you don't have to spend here, you spend there.
So what do you want to put?
Well, I pay hosting fees of $75 every 3 months.
For the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So figure.
$300.
I'm just go daddy, I
Mhm.
can't remember how much I paid. So what do we want to put in there, $1,000?
You move the farmer's market money into there.
Budget 1,000 for it,
Yeah.
sure, just swap
Mhm.
it.
Yes,
Yes.
so that's 15, 16, 21, 21, 23, 30, 31. Can't be that much. Okay, that's 700 plus 2,100 plus
No, 5,000 we moved in there,
215
Carol.
plus 5,000 plus
Did you add this up?
600 plus 1,000.
I didn't get this, I was still,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I didn't get all the numbers.
Let's see.
If you want to.
9615 for that category.
What'd you say?
9615.
That can't be right.
No.
I got 65.15.
Yeah.
So we have 700 for advertising.
Go to the other page.
And then 5,000.
On the-
215.
On the front page, 2,800.
No. front page should be,
57.
5,700.
Yeah, plus the 215, the 500, and the 1,000.
We said just-
700 and 2,100, right?
No, we said we were gonna take the money from Harvest Day and just put it into CBD events, so it wouldn't be 2,100 anymore, it was just a flat 5,000.
5,000, okay. And does that include the October event?
It's just going away. Well, it's all gonna be housed under here. So we'll have this here,
Yeah,
$5,000 there, 215,
right,
nothing, 500 and stuff.
okay. Well, 100 for meetings too.
Yeah, yep. So 6615?
You guys gotta talk louder.
That's what I have, 66.
I got 7515.
75?
Did you get the 1,000 for the
700
website?
plus
Yeah.
Yeah?
5,000.
All right, 5,700 plus
57.
215 equals, plus 600 equals, plus 1,000. I got 7515.
Okay, 7515 it is.
Think.
Going once.
7515. Or 7,515. Okay, employee expenses. Help wanted ad. What do ads run? I mean, if you place it in the Michigan municipal, do we know how much those ads are?
Don't know, but we do have to put it in one of the newspapers.
Right.
That's probably gonna be, what, maybe a
Depends
couple
on how
$100
big you
bucks.
want it.
Um,
Well, I'm gonna say, what is it?
3 by 5 or
Yeah.
2 by
Need like
2 or
500 for help wanted ads.
An
500.
eighth or a quarter, I wanna say a quarter is like, what, $500?
all right.
Say
500?
500.
Total?
Insurance. Now, this is where, what did we say how much is insurance on the
We figured out
marketplace?
payroll over here. Where'd it go?
I don't even ask me.
Christine, how much are you paying for one employee on the marketplace?
It depends on what product they're buying. That's the beauty. They're going to get what they need, right? You need maternity coverage, you gotta pay for that, right? You don't need maternity coverage, you don't pay for that.
But your
right?
cost stays the same. What
No,
you're-
we've just contracted, we agreed to pay what product she's buying for our particular employee,
Well, I
which
think we-
happens to be about $400 a month, for just over
So
400.
we need to cap whatever we're looking at to pay.
So we have to-
But
I
that's
had a long
just
conversation with you,
healthcare.
with,
That's not dental,
Kathy
that's
Olson
not
today.
optical, that's.
'cause she
Yeah, what
came
are we,
here
what are we covering? Just
Okay.
health,
On the first
dental, vision?
business day of
Yeah,
every
For
it keeps going.
$200,
About
you're
this
just
type
gonna
of
get
thing.
health.
Executive director.
Yeah, is that all we're
25
offering?
bucks an hour for $20 a week.
Better than
$20 a
nothing.
week. She'd be more than interested in it.
Well,
And she knows everybody
If they
downtown
can get
and walks
dental
around
and
with those
eye
women,
for
she's
under
got a ton of
200.
She
ideas.
doesn't go
That's
and talk to
our
anybody.
max is 200
I
we'll
disagree.
play.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
And I think she's got too much,
She doesn't. She has all those people in there working.
but she does all the stuff to run the back end of that store.
Let's move on, because I'm getting tired.
Okay, so 400 times 12,
Got some coffee?
4,800.
I don't even.
What? What's
For the
40?
insurance, 4,800.
For what?
well, that's,
That,
It
we
could
have
be.
insurance down another
It could
section.
be less. No, this is insurance for an employee.
Oh, employee insurance?
Mhm.
So I thought that was 200 a month. You didn't
She
say
just
400?
said 400 she's paying, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lisa was
it's
paying,
up to, it's
I was
our
paying-
decision. I mean,
Right.
it's
she's
So
paying
do-
$330 in just for health,
330 something.
Okay.
On the market.
On the marketplace?
just for health,
Just for health.
yeah. So I think
Well, that's
four
all
is-
they're getting.
Call it
They're not getting anything
3,600.
else.
So I think 4 is a great a good
think four
concern,
is-
yeah.
Okay, not to exceed that, right? Okay. Mileage. Do you guys really pay mileage?
I mean, if they're going to like a conference, I guess you would probably cover mileage or something like that.
I'm supposed
And
to-
Sometimes they have to go pick stuff up.
I'm supposed to charge
So
to
it's like
them, and I have never
58 and a
done it.
half cents now.
Huh?
It's 58 and a half cents a
Leave it at
mile.
100. Payroll service fee. I know our checks
If
are.
it doesn't go up.
$3.50, $3.50. Carol, you do the payroll, right? You don't charge a service fee, right?
I should. No, I don't.
Okay,
I lovingly give it to the DDA, my
There's
services.
a real question about how many years we can expect to continue to have Carol do it for free. Or Carol's replacement.
So how much did we
Bookkeeping
put in for
service.
mileage? 200?
Leaving the 100.
we left it at
100.
100.
Let's talk about this year.
Okay, payroll, wages, and taxes. So Carol, tell us what that.
Yeah, if we go with 36.4,
Mm-hmm,
the taxes are approximately 10%. So that add another 3,600 to that. So you need to budget 40,000.
And with insurance, we're at closer to 50,000.
Isn't it 11 and a half? Social Security? Carol, what is Social Security today?
They haven't changed it. Medicare is .0145, and Social Security is .062.
yeah.
Okay.
But then you gotta add on to that unemployment and,
A great deal more.
FUTA, which FUTA
Which
is
is
$54.
unemployment for us right now.
But
is run
unemployment's about 256
For the year,
for the year.
right.
So we always ballpark at 10%.
Okay. So, total expenses for employee, so we need to add those.
So we add that up and it's,
What's that? For that part.
500 plus 4,800 plus 100
40,000,
plus
no,
40,000.
that's not right.
45,400.
45,400. Plus 7,515 plus 6,575. We're at 118,655 right now.
Well, what did the employee expense come to?
45,400.
Service fees.
Well, office expense is probably gonna be, well, the rent will go down to 600 because I paid 2 years.
Where are you? The next page is bank service fees.
Yeah, one account, they charge us $3 a month.
Really?
And then,
For that kind of money?
yeah,
They shouldn't be charging you anything.
I don't know what they did. $3.
So we went over budget. We're at 71 right
This
now.
is, we put it at $50 and it was plenty for years. We had an issue with a check that bounced.
Okay, so
That's what
50,
cost us the money.
$50.
So $50 is usually good.
All right, I'm
The
curious on,
insurance should be $200,000, I mean, 2,000.
so what insurance bill didn't get paid this year?
We didn't
You
do,
need to renew your officer, and
So that's lapsed?
it needs to be, it's renewal, it needs to be renewed, yes. I believe it lapsed.
Did it lapse?
I believe it lapsed, yes.
Okay, so we need to keep the 2,000 in there. So who has the paperwork to renew the insurance?
I mean,
I believe I have it in the office and I forgot to give it to Carol. My apologies.
Okay.
It's been in the last month.
Okay,
internet is 0.
Office
Office
rent.
supplies, want to keep it at 500?
yep. Petty cash.
Petty cash, we don't really use.
Do you want to make that 0?
Postage, all depends how much they're gonna do. If they're gonna mail out stuff, we need more.
I make it half, 250.
250.
Yep.
No P.O. box.
Printing and copying
Printing
fees.
is part of our rent, so I don't need that. We don't need a sign. Small office equipment, we replaced a scanner or printer last year. Which
My
one?
printer was like 4 years ago. It was right after. I started.
We bought something for
We bought a
$89.99.
laptop last
Yeah,
year.
that was,
$89.99.
Year before last,
We reduced it to 1,000.
Right, but this year, we spent
Hey,
8,
let's make it 1,000.
just in case.
Software, we don't need any software right now, do we?
Well, we might have to update some software.
Do we have a high enough security
Let's make it 500.
Okay.
in our software and our internet service?
I have no idea what.
Telephone runs,
I would suggest
as you
get
see,
some.
700 or over. So you want to put 800
You
there?
may want to put some money in there to.
Because I got another 138.
I
so-
said 500.
Is that
Okay,
just a
'cause
cell
we
phone?
don't want to go through.
It's,
what the
it's,
village
the
is just
yeah,
going
it's
through.
just a
Well, they
cell
need to
phone.
Okay.
update it to the cloud, yeah. That runs about
So we need to put
$125 a year.
850 in
Then
there.
We need some money in there.
Yeah, I said 500.
All right.
Okay, telephone service isn't gonna change.
850, because this year it was 868.
What are you saying? Where are you guys?
She's still on telephone,
It says 730.
but May and June is
Oh,
138.
okay.
Okay. 2,050 plus 1,100 plus 250 plus 1,500 plus 850. 5,750 for that category.
How come we didn't pay any auditing fees?
Christine, do you think the auditing company's gonna bill us? They haven't done it in a couple of years.
Aren't we supposed to be audited?
We are audited.
Right.
They just don't bill us.
I'll have to check with Catherine on that. But we did, we bid those services out, and that RFP should be before council to make a decision if they're gonna stick with UHY or switch to a different company. So I don't know what their policies will be, but,
So this other company you're looking at, cheaper?
you know, it's a range. There was, I wanna say 8 vendors, and UHY's in the middle.
All right,
Can we keep it
So
at
I don't know.
15?
so we probably should keep it at 15. Yeah, all right.
What do we spend $200 on legal for?
We had to get a letter from the lawyer. What was that?
The auditors send a letter for the DDA's lawyer to fill out stating that we haven't used any services. Well, when you call his office or you email his office, you get charged for that. And then he charges to do the letter, and then when the auditing company calls you and says, can you tell me where the letter's at, and we have to call them again, it just adds up.
Okay. I say 250 in there.
250.
Snow removal?
What's up with the snow removal?
Let's just remove it.
Remove
Yeah,
it.
get rid of it.
Okay.
Are we gonna put
Professionals.
anything in snow removal?
Okay, what is this, you guys?
No?
Oh, this is the totals, never mind.
So that category is 1,750.
Down from the 52. Is that where you're at now?
Down from 22.
Yeah, down from 22,
Oh,
right?
22, I was looking at the wrong.
Yep, yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, streetscapes.
So
We've
we're
done all the
at-
benches. We're not buying any more benches right now, right?
Yeah, but we talked about the whole concept of a
6.5.
sinking fund so that we've yearly done
7.5
this, so that
plus.
10 years from now,
We have
we're
money in
not
there.
doing a WTF where we're gonna get the money. That we put aside conversationally $2,000 a year each and every
All right,
year to do that.
let's keep the 2,000
I
then.
mean,
Should we
in some
reduce it
general,
though to like
So,
1,000?
so
in some general space, we need to have a quote-unquote sinking fund to cover these items which are just falling apart.
So what do you
Whether
call
it's
it?
the Christmas decorations or the benches or the.
We're at
flower pots or
126
anything.
right now.
We've got to fund the stuff on a yearly basis.
so what do we call it?
Leave it in those benches, I guess.
I would make it
We don't need
streetscape stuff.
benches.
Just
We don't
streetscape
need the
replacement,
clock.
Kelly.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole concept is.
Right.
that if other boards have been incompetent in not, you know, putting this money aside, for God's sake, let's stop the incompetency and do it properly.
Okay, so
2,000.
2,000 there. Is that,
2,000 for what?
Lisa, did we have to pay to have that clock revamped or fixed?
No, we just had to, no, I talked to them, and they said Bill could set the time. and
Okay,
all that needs to be
okay.
done.
All right. Okay,
Okay, we've got 22.5 for the lights.
what does this mean?
No,
flower
that went up,
pots?
didn't it?
Greg, this would kind of
It's
be
up to
the,
35.
the area where we start talking about,
Okay, what does the flower pots, what is this in here?
It's kind of like Bill's saying, we need to keep, we have not replaced any of our.
We haven't put any money in here.
Since we bought all the new pots, we have
Right.
not put any money to save to purchase any, should any break.
How much are they
replace.
each?
$400 a piece,
400 apiece.
about 400 a piece.
Are those the ones like behind the office pub, the rectangular ones?
No, I'm talking about the ones on the poles,
Oh,
The
my
wraparound and the
apologies.
hanging ones.
both the bottoms and the uppers. We
Uh,
haven't, we
Do
don't.
you want
have any
$1,000
extra.
a year in there?
Isn't that the 2,000 that Bill just?
No, that was-
He made a motion for 35.
well, that's.
So
no,
let's put
that's-
1,000 in there.
Oh,
Let's
that's
put
lights.
1,000
Oh,
in there,
okay.
you guys, okay?
See where we are.
Do we want to do like we're doing for the benches,
Yeah, we put 1,000 in there.
1,000?
Yep.
And then the next one down is gonna
It's
change to
35.
30. Is it 30,
It
35?
is 35, yep.
And then we want to keep our buffer there for 80,000 for,
Yep.
I'm sorry, so why are you
Oh, we
budgeting
really don't need to put
35,000 for
that
the
80 in
LED?
there.
Yeah, it
Because
came
we're
out of
gonna
last
spend it.
year's.
Yeah, we are.
This is next year's budget, right? We're gonna do this
right, we don't need to
before
worry about it this
June
year.
30th.
Yeah, nothing.
That's gonna go out before,
No, and then she's saying, we're spending this money in this,
This year.
we had 40,000.
Right.
We're only gonna spend 35, but next year we don't have to have anything in there.
okay,
Correct.
so we're, it's.
Unless you wanna put
So that's zero.
5,000 for maintenance.
I agree.
Or if
I-
any
I
other
think
bulbs, right, something
Right, you're
happens,
right.
right?
Generalized maintenance of $5,000 would be a wonderful idea in there.
Okay. 80 is staying because that's not being spent till next year, correct?
Oh, I thought we were taking that out.
The 80? No, because we're
I
paying
thought it
it.
was going to go into next year's budget.
It is. That's
This
what
is
we're doing,
next year's
next year's
budget.
budget.
You're saying next year's, like?
You mean
2022,
2022?
23?
No, it
could.
would be fiscal year 21, 22.
Oh, they'll finish it this year? I mean, this
June.
next
They'll
year?
finish it in the spring of 22, which is in
Oh,
your
okay,
next
then we do
fiscal year.
need it.
So
There's
we're not
nothing else.
paying for murals on Main.
We're not going to do the flag thing.
Flagpole.
Nothing
Now,
else.
bid packets,
is
when
that?
are we up for bid?
The
We're gonna
flowers,
need to do flowers.
flowers.
Well, you need-
88.
The flowers
Christmas
and what
lights
else?
need to be done, and flowers will need to be done next year.
So we got to bid out 2 different big projects.
So what does a bid packet cost? I have no idea.
The time for me to write it up and put it on the website, and
Why wasn't it a line item here then?
So we don't need anything, right?
unless you're gonna put it on, I mean, does it cost the village anything to put anything on the bid?
Okay, leave that zero. Dumpster project.
Do we want
Right.
to do any?
This is something Greg and
Yeah,
Zach.
okay,
We're
so.
kind of the dumpster guys here, okay?
Okay, Mr.
So-
Dumpster Man.
Yeah. You want to start, Zach, or? you
Well,
wanna-
Greg and I walked kind of the north and southeast quadrants last week, and we were looking at possible locations for not just additional parking, but possible dumpster corrals before. I know we kind of explored that on the north end in the past, but we think that the south end, the southeast quadrant, does have some viability for a dumpster corral with some additional, redoing some of the lot lines and things of that nature, maybe moving around some of the existing spots. And this was all a much larger conversation about parking really and enforcement, but I think we should budget something for getting that back quadrant cleaned up.
So if I can add a few comments to it, and I'll be brief because I know it's late, but I'm gonna work out these drawings that are in your package from, I don't know if you still have them with you or not, but nevertheless, starting with the area to the south of St. Clair, sort of behind my building and around. You know, I've listened for many years about parking concerns. I sort of was involved back in the day when the big study was done. I was sort of getting my feet wet around here, but I grew up here. I've been here my whole life pretty much, so I've seen it. There's a lot of parking spots that are available that we haven't worked to acquire. In my quadrant down there, you know, I've had 3 properties for sale for years. I'm not overly interested in selling them real fast, but in few years, no one's ever approached me about those. There's also the Zaco parking lot there, which was the old AMC Jeep dealership, that is a big spot there that there could be possibilities of leasing and using and us insuring and maintaining. Then you've got a lot of property with the Lions Club there to put in parking right off of Bailey Street if we wanted to. So, and it goes on and on. So in my quadrant, there's plenty of parking available. We looked at dumpster corral locations that could be combined between the Little Caesars building, the gun shop, and the bank, doing something sort of behind my building there to create a dumpster corral. That would not be a big haul for any of those businesses to use that. There's 3 dumpsters, or 4 there, I think, Zach, then Zach's building as well. No, I stand corrected, that's not part of it. So you got the bank, the gun shop, Little Caesars, and the party store, I guess, are kind of all there. So there's 4 dumpsters. We could bring those into one. We've got the need, I think, for that next quadrant north of there to really find out, if we want to do this right, who really owns what property there. And I believe that one of the best ways we could spend some money, it will not be cheap, is then Bill can maybe weigh in on this, is hire an engineering firm to do a literal staked survey in that back quadrant to find out where people's properties start and stop. So if we're going to encourage
It's been
them.
done.
Say again?
It has been done.
Okay, good, that'd be great. So those marks will be there, so it'll be a little easier. Those stakes, poles, whatever, rods. Once we know that, we could probably begin as a DDA with a long-term project of helping these people maybe improve their parking and the flow for all that back there. We've got a need for a dumpster corral, probably closer to the hardware as well, or behind Zach's building. Really, there's a perfect spot for it by the fire hydrant there, where we could come together in that parking area. So we literally went through everything and looked at it. The alleyway doesn't have the traffic flow marked between the dry cleaner and then what would be the roofing people now. That is not a one-way either way. So lots of things down there to tidy up that aren't really necessarily gonna cost a lot of money, but I believe if we can work with the village or whatever and can secure perhaps a line of credit that could then be offered to these building owners for a significant infrastructure improvement behind their building, what they literally own, we could then tie that into, them paying that back over a 4 or 5 year, 7 year period, whatever it may be, rather than these building owners having to scurry around and find 20 grand to throw towards a parking lot project or something, to clean it up and resurface it and stripe it and get things flowing the way they should. Zach can maybe expound on this. We talked about the timed parking. If, clearly if we time the parking and we enforce that at certain times of the day, the parking problems really go away, because there's enough places for people to disappear to if they're forced to do that. There's more here. I don't want to keep going on tonight, but on the other side of the parking space, or the 32 Mile Road, St. Clair, there's a dumpster corral possibility, working with Marty's business there, tied in maybe with what would be the barbecue place and Bushimi's and such. The car wash property came to our mind of what's going to happen there, and with the municipal parking lot there, and then obviously the guy who's going to build the medical building there. What's going on there, which I thought would probably be worth some discussion sometime. But anyway, I can expound on this more and more, but it's late. But I walked away very confident that there's plenty of parking down in my quadrant if we want to acquire it or lease it. Zaco's has a big lot there, and perhaps we approach them, we'll insure it, we'll maintain it, we resurface it, and do a 10-year lease on it, and gives us a bunch of time to acquire other property and make some things happen. So, Zach?
All great points, full agreement. We're talking about budget.
I get
Throw
that.
out, throw out a number that you think we should try to pencil in somewhere here so
Yeah.
we can.
I say we throw in 30 grand at that dumpster project for this year's budget and take it from there.
30 in the
30.
dumpster project?
Okay, hold on a minute. We have a trash can project and trash beautification
I'm not
project.
talking about those, I'm talking about the dumpster project.
Oh, the dumpster,
The
okay.
trash can
All right.
project was the.
It's done.
The spray coating,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Okay.
over.
All right.
But should have something in it, a few bucks, too. Because we will need new ones eventually. We stripped powder
Right.
coated those, so we
Yeah.
will need, so it would be nice to be putting a little in there.
What was it,
So-
were we powder coating? I couldn't hear that.
We did it before.
We
We
did
did
it
the trash
last-
cans.
One more thing on that, then, I don't know if this is a time or not, we're gonna propose something, well, maybe Bill and I can talk more about that stake survey, but I'd like to make a proposal or a motion that we allow some, money to have those corners remarked as well, because it really would give us the ability to have a real intelligent, informed conversation.
And
That's
I think
gonna
we
have-
can do that as
On an
all-
agenda.
And that'll be like a subcommittee thing,
Okay.
knowing that that's in the
So,
budget.
so I'm sorry, to clarify this 30,000, you say dumpster project, it's just the potential dumpster corrals that you were
Corrals.
talking
And-
about? Nothing to
and-
do with your parking and your
No, it would-
surveys?
I mean, and anything surrounding it. I mean, at that
Okay.
point, the flow of
That-
traffic would be dependent on.
In this number?
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
that's the number I wanted. So 30,000 would be in what you brought up.
And it doesn't have to all, I mean, if that's something where we get the plans together,
Yeah.
that 30 grand is there for the next year, and then we put another 30 grand into it, and then we got our 60,
Yeah.
and then it's a
Just for
two-year
the sake of the
project.
budget.
Are we
I
being
just wanted to
specific
know.
about the location, or it's just in general?
I'll say in the southeast, or on the east two quadrants, let's put it that way.
Okay. Taylor Park Alley project, I don't know what that was.
That
Jim-
was for closing off behind the gas station, next to the gas station by
Oh.
my junk teaks.
Okay.
A
I'd
lot of
like to
these
make
just
a
should be
proposal.
eliminated, right?
Right,
They shouldn't
yeah.
even be on there anymore.
Kelly?
Pardon me?
I'd like to make a proposal for a project, and that's the Lafayette Bike Path, to put $10,000 towards that project, if the village can do it.
Is that in our area?
We can't,
It's I mean,
But
a
it
portion
brings
of-
it to our area.
And a portion of it is, yes. So
It
it's-
is?
I mean, it's no different than saying we're gonna pay for the LED lightings, but LED lighting, but only the LED lighting that's in the
Oh,
DDA
okay,
district, you know?
yeah. Do we have a line item
Do
for
you
that?
think it'll be more than 20 grand?
I really don't remember what Paul kicked around when we were talking about pedestrian crosswalks. That very well may be another grant that we could apply for, you know.
That bike path?
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
So we could put 10 grand in there and then see if we can get some grant funding.
See
And
where it
it's not-
falls.
The first
Well,
part
you
of
can
projects-
still do it under brick and mortar projects other, I mean, you don't have to necessarily.
Well, but remember, in our DDA area, we don't have a lot of that bike path, you know, we're just talking about, which I'm not adverse to helping out the rest, you know, to make it happen, but there's not a big area in the DDA area that really would encompass that. The real path has to be built right off, you know, at the end of the street, that probably 100 yards, not even, probably 70, 50 yards of an asphalt path. Not talking about something huge here, a little signage for directions.
But the problem is, there's nothing there now, so you gotta put a base in there, and then you have to have, the cost of putting new asphalt down.
Yeah, it's not huge.
That's
But-
pricey.
But didn't Christine mention the possibility
Of
of that being
grants.
of that being a one-way street and bringing a bike path that went from Lafayette to Main Street essentially?
Because right now, the street for two-way traffic is not wide enough to also add a dedicated bike lane,
Right.
Right.
right? So you can look at redoing the sidewalks, which all need to be redone down that whole strip, they're terrible. So even if the sidewalks were improved, might make it a little easier for families to not have to ride their bikes in the street. But if they're in the street, having a dedicated bike lane, obviously is what a lot of municipalities are doing.
So that could be something that where the money
Absolutely.
is being spent in the district at that point, if it's connecting the bike path to Main Street there. So I'm in agreement
I
with
mean,
that, 10,000.
it's
But
promoting the
path
area.
connects behind the well bridge,
Okay.
which is, you're talking about just a jig jog there.
But you gotta ride up around the street, up through the church
No,
park.
you could still come the other way and go past the Lions Field and you end up in the same spot. Lafayette.
So it goes, I guess I'm not familiar with that part. It's,
The,
Yeah, you can do it, but it's a
I'm sorry, what did you say, through
long
Wellbridge?
way.
is it, well, yeah, it connects right there to, because that's how I jump on.
Right, through Wellbridge. You can come
go
up
either
through.
way.
Oh, you,
Spring
instead of
Street.
going on the dirt thing, you turn and go past, the
You
adult
go into
foster?
their- Yeah, you go into their parking lot and you
Okay,
come past the adult,
okay,
yes.
yeah.
I don't know.
You
Would
get
they
the
be-
same way.
I guess I never did that, I go on the dirt.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're
You
advocating.
don't go on
then
the
to
dirt,
just-
it's a very nice, it's like.
No, I said I go on the
Oh,
dirt.
okay. Like they connected it very nicely with a bench and.
Mhm.
the
But technically,
elderly
it's their property, not public property.
Right.
So,
That they've opened to the public.
right, and they have a nice, well, they used to have a nice Starbucks in there.
Do they still?
I don't.
Oh, they don't let anybody in,
Right,
so.
you can't go in there now, so I
Okay,
don't know.
so what are we saying here? This $10,000 Carol's proposed for the bike path, yay or nay?
I would think that would be a project that if it comes to fruition, we would talk about a co-funding. But for right now, with everything else that's going on, I wouldn't recommend it
No?
I'd rather throw it at the.
in the park or in some
Right.
other
But
place.
Megan, I want to ask you on this trash can project, how much are one of those trash cans?
Oh geez, a new one? I don't know. Depends on what kind, how big, how many gallons.
Lisa, what?
We're like, between $1,100 and $1,500 a piece.
For the trash cans? Huh.
So yeah, starting to squirrel away a little
Mhm.
bit each year would be a good idea.
Even if we say 1,000, it would take us.
A long time.
That's why we just
Mhm.
spray painted the other ones.
Mhm.
Other colors.
All right, so for this year, we can let that go, since that was just done, right? Okay.
See where we are.
Carol, going down the next list, the $2,000 for sign grants, we haven't done those at all this year, did we?
Nobody came to us.
Last year we did, but not this year.
We should leave that in there, though, I
I
think.
certainly think so. I mean, that's one of the things that Greg was championing, making sure that business owners knew that there was some money available. And
Right.
if we had somebody who was doing that outreach to new potential owners, for instance, Christoph from Main Street Bar and Grill approached me today. He's like, I need to sit down because we want to redo the front of my building and find out what we can do. And yes, of course, I invited him in and I said, there's DDA money if you want to apply. Even if it's $500, it's still
Right.
$500.
Right,
So I think that's important.
yep.
Yeah, leave it.
Okay, historical preservation. What were you guys doing with this?
I don't think we've ever, I can't recall ever.
We've never used it.
Right. We use that to pay for the, what's the name of it? We did a study and we looked at every structure.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was
Um,
years ago, though, right?
Yeah, but that's what we were doing
Okay,
with
Leave it
it.
off.
leave it off. This next thing, what is
Yeah,
this?
what is it? I don't know. what that-
Okay, that's from January to October, the DDA receives no money. So we always put in $30,000 in there to cover the bills during that time period. Otherwise, we just wouldn't pay our bills. Because you
But you're
gotta pay
just moving
payroll,
money
you gotta
from one
pay.
account to another, right?
Huh?
You're just moving money from one bank account to another.
Shouldn't that be the balancing?
If the money's there.
Adds all this up.
Well, I hope the
Well,
money's there.
this year, they'll be there. We're gonna roll 200,000 in.
Okay,
But we always put 30 there as a buffer because we would need to
You
pay the
have to have some for
payroll,
Operating expenses. Why don't we
pay
use
the
this as
rent.
why don't we have Carol add all this other stuff up, see where we are, and use that as your balance out, item? And we can then revisit this
You
at
wanna
the
see
next
where we're
meeting
at?
and adopt it.
well, don't we have to okay, really quickly,
well, we're almost done.
We'd
We're
have to
almost
sit.
almost done.
we're almost done,
we
hold
got-
on. Wayfinding signs, you guys haven't budgeted anything for that. Do we have any idea about the Boy Scout guy?
He reached out to me again, and I said, Dominic, just put together a proposal of what you want. I said, right now, I don't have a right-of-way where you can put it as far as a welcome sign.
But
Focus
didn't
on
we
the
throw
village
back to
park.
him like Village Park and,
I told him to
Yeah.
focus on the village park.
okay.
Should we,
So do we want, put like $5,000 in there
No.
seems high,
2.
too?
yeah.
Trash beautification project.
Trash we don't need?
Okay.
Or do we want to build a reserve?
Village park improvements. I guess we can't put anything in here until you figure out this budget and we can go back and revisit this.
The village park?
Why don't you pencil in $10,000 and then see where we are, and we can adjust as necessary.
All right.
How much?
10.
10, we're gonna have to adjust this after somebody
Right,
sits down with the
right.
tape, because right now, everybody makes mistakes.
Okay, so let's see
because
where
they've
we're
got
at.
fat fingers.
I know I've added this up.
It's called fat
We're at a
fingers.
dead
So
phone.
let's have her
I can't add.
do this with a tape.
Hey,
and-
Carol,
and we
you don't
can-
have to do this tonight. You can go figure this out and then
But then we're gonna have to have another meeting before the
we are,
council.
we knew we were gonna have to have a special meeting.
We can,
Have a short special
a
meeting.
short, just to
Yes.
change the half dozen or two or three
Right.
items where we know we've got something that needs to be changed.
Right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
If you are, zip it.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you are, don't open your mouth.
We don't really have